Any questions after our first practice here?
Day one, I mean, your expectations to kind of live
Look,
up
I said yesterday, I thought, we handled the test well, the conditioning test. I thought these guys, today moved around. I think the weather, we've got a good stretch here where, it's been a little milder. I think the setup for the fans is outstanding. I was really excited to see how much that's come along, just, creating the shade and it's come a long way. You used to sit out there and all I heard was the beer man selling beers. That was your only way to get cool. But no, everything was good here this first practice.
Coach, the pads don't come on for another day.
Yeah.
But Emmanuel Butler, what do you want to see out of him once the pads do come on? Because he looks pretty good out there today.
Yeah, look, I would agree with you. He's someone we've noticed. So, continued, advancing in what we're doing, understanding the system and terminology, minimizing the mistakes. That's half of it. It's hard to evaluate players if they're inconsistent in their assignment or they don't know what to do. It's hard to get a proper evaluation. So, that's why this installation now starts again like it does, and we kind of begin to replicate, although we've got more practice time than we had in the spring, but begin to replicate a situational install that we work on.
Sean, what's the first day of training camp like for you just personally? Maybe you get especially amped up for?
It's a big transition in that, you go from the time away and you kind of know that last week of vacation, what's on the horizon. It's, almost like that you're getting ready to get on an aircraft carrier for 6 or 7 months. And but yeah, there's a level of excitement. There's also a level of here we go, let's go. If you're not careful, it can sometimes occupy your last week and a half of vacation. And but it's good to see guys came back. I think overall, I was pleased with how yesterday went. We made some renovations to the facility again in a different area. Those turned out outstanding in the team meeting rooms. So all of that stuff is good. And and again, I comment on. I really like the setup here for training camp, and I think it's an important part of what we do. And I think anytime you open your camp like most teams do, I think it's a chance for the fans to see you practice. And
Sean, looking at when you're trying to execute the screenplay, it looks like the defense all over it a couple of times. Do you get a better look with pads on, or?
Yeah, there's some coverage looks that aren't as attractive, and so we're early enough in the install. We're not necessarily checking out us, but there's some looks that you get where you just got to ground it. In a perfect world, you're catching a spot drop zone, with a rush call. And as you get into the season, you try to minimize and maybe prioritize. All right, this is the look. This is the look. If not, let's get to something else and not waste a play. So it's good for the defense. The guys that really, I think, end up impacting the screens seasonally are the two inside defensive tackles. Those are the guys that can make screens difficult. When they feel the guard get light, and then they all of a sudden key the back. It's a little harder on the ends, and sometimes a little bit more challenging for the second level players. But when your tackles become aware of how it feels different, those guys can really help with the traditional slow screens.
With Alvin entering his third year, is this when we finally get to see him unleashed in this offense?
You didn't just ask that question. You can't even follow. Yeah, we're going to unleash Alvin this year. Yeah. He's going to be a new weapon.
But I mean.
No, fair enough. How many more things? Look, I think he's an exceptional runner. I think he's very, very good as a receiver. And so, generally, when you have a running back like that, it's not difficult to get him touches because you can turn and hand him the ball on occasion, and you can put him into the route. And but he has that skill set where he does a lot of things well, and the counterbalance to that is, making sure you maintain that proper number of touches, and so I think more importantly, the other touches that aren't necessarily Alvin's, whether they're coming from Murray or whoever's in the game, I think that's going to be an important part of what we do.
So that workload will kind of we'll see
It
that
would
increase.
be similar as we've been seeing. You know, we've been pleased with the balance that we've had with him. I mean, we think it's been a good count.
Jared Cook, good as advertised?
Well, look, we just finished our first practice. We saw enough in the spring to see the size and the stature and some of the challenges it is to cover him. I think so. He's picked things up quickly, and you know, he's another target, especially if we're getting, you know, coverage rotated on the weak side.
Sean, when one of your main guys is here, not necessarily Michael Thomas, but when one of the guys is here, does it change a lot for you? How much does that change?
It hadn't happened recently. You know, after the last CBA, when you look at generally it was a rookie back in the day, you know, and it might take 4 days or 3 days, and but after the slotted assignments, that quickly kind of went away, and so I don't think the topic of holdouts are as significant today as they were 10 years ago. I mean, I can recall being in camp with the Giants, waiting on Shockey, you know, 4 days, 5 days. It was just a lot more prevalent then. So, I envision at some point they'll get that number worked out, and until then, you know, we work on who's here.
Sean, it looks like the ice box is more formal. It doesn't look like it come off a freight train.
So here's what happened though.
And
The old one, it's the same kind of unit. The old one, you all entered from the one, just the one end. If you had a little claustrophobic problem, then you had a problem because it was dark and you had to go all the way back. And then so I think someone made a couple renovations, and it's more like a dugout now. And yet it's cold and effective, and we didn't need it as much today, but there'll be the right time for that, especially the linemen.
Sean, did Zion say he wants to get some pads, or what did he say about that?
My whole thing with him, when I told him this wasn't about football, this is just another shoe deal, another jersey deal. 2 days of practice is all we need. We get another shoe deal. Doesn't have to be as big as the last shoe deal. Another jersey deal. Put them in another number. It was good meeting some of those guys.
Sean, are you up to snuff on the tweaks that they made to the rule change with the?
Yeah, there weren't many tweaks. So I am, because I'm on that committee. Basically, last month, a month and a half ago, they wanted to revisit now with all the staffs that had a chance to digest the change. And the discussion was really, are we ready and certain we want to handle it inside 2 minutes, like all replay? And the decision was yes. And then it was, all right, specifically guidelines for that replay assistant so that he's not pushing the button and stopping 6 plays every time you're inside 2 minutes. And I think we worked through that with the clubs, league office, and the committee. And yeah, I think, look, you want to make sure to explain it to the fan. It's like every other replay. You know, above 2 minutes, the coach has a challenge flag. We haven't changed how many challenge flags we have. I don't think you're going to see more challenges. In fact, I think you'll see maybe less, just because you're going to want to hold on for a bigger call now, maybe more than just an 8-yard gain. But that's up to the coach. And then inside 2 minutes, you have to have a timeout now. But inside 2 minutes, you know, replay can handle something. And that format doesn't change. We've just added 2 penalties to it.
I wanted to ask about yesterday. Belichick's using Danny Etling, kind of a receiver. Do you think what you did with Taysom? I know that's not anything new. I mean, there's been Wildcat guys, but do you think that's going to the way this game's going?
No, I think it's all player related. I mean, what Bill's done with Etling is not a surprise at all, because it wasn't too long ago he was doing that with Edelman, quarterback out of the MAC conference, you know, that ran pretty well, good athlete. And so the uniqueness with Taysom is strictly that, you know, he is a quarterback, and what he's doing on special teams, and he's a different body type than the receiver / quarterback. You know, he's more of a tight end F, and he's really good at it. So, yeah, I mean, the lesson's always like, man, there's good football players, and it's creating the right vision for them. Sometimes we spend too much time on what they can't do and not enough time on what they can do. And I think that's a lesson for all of us.
Coach, how's that battle between the centers, McCoy and Easton? Just obviously it's early, but
yeah, I mean it'll be something that that'll be important that we're going to have a chance to evaluate. And, but after the first practice,
Coach, going back to what Jeff talked about, the challenge, is that something you and the other coaches, Pete, and drill on a lot this time of year with all the new rules?
Not yet. I mean, look, if it's something that the player can control, essentially, look, we're going to have the ability and I look at it like, an egregious offensive pass interference that happens against us that you got to get confirmation now. Again, you're only given 2 of these things. So you see something obvious, you throw a flag, and hey, you see something that maybe should have been called, you throw your challenge flag, and then anytime there's a challenge, it goes to New York. You understand that. It doesn't. The replay guy upstairs is kind of like we are inside of 2 minutes. If he stops it, it goes to New York. So we'll get specifically into the officials when they come here in 5 days or 6 days. They'll talk about that with the team. I think more importantly, we're not changing offensive or defensive pass interference, so it's not like we're coaching a different technique. It's just what's going to happen if there is a challenge.
The narrative, you're going to roll your eyes, I know, but the hangover we've heard the last 2 years, y'all have had heartbreaking losses. I know you've been asked a bunch.
Well, it was the same question that was asked last year, though.
Right, I know.
And so, look, it's important that the team moves on, but honestly, and you know me well enough to know that regardless of what just took place last season relative to your team, success, failure, high success, a lot of failure, the league's set up in a fashion where you're drafting accordingly, your schedule's accordingly. We've got a tough schedule that we're going to have to play, especially early on when you look at our first 4 games. But that's where they're at, and so we look more specifically at how, the travel, what are our best ways to handle the schedule. But this is a young, resilient team. We're going to hit more adversity. Shoot, that won't be the last time.
Do you feel like the process alone kind of eliminates carryover from year to year? The fact that you just start in Dennis Green used to say the valley of 0-0. You're back down the valley now, and just the process of getting ready.
And I think the other thing that's a little different than 20 years ago, where you might only have 6 new players that make a team, the turnover is greater. And so this is a different team. I mean, shoot, there's a lot of new faces, guys that have gone on. It's a new team. And, and then the schedule and all those other things, they don't wait for anyone. Those are things so we really focus on more of the things we can control.
So you're not going to bury some kind of casket out here from last year?
No.
Sean, is it something that
I've done that before. It wasn't effective, but
is it something that you planned during the years? I know it's relationship with different coaches, but who you practice against? Like for instance, the Patriots. Look at the Chargers; they're all contenders. It's not like we practice against a team that's 3-13.
I think there's a couple things that go into that. Number one, Anthony and I worked together for 2 years at Dallas, so I know him well. We know their staff well. Our exposure and experience the first time was a real good one, and then it also provides a climate change. At the right time, where all of a sudden you get out of the humidity for 4 or 5 days, and so it's just worked. And I know they feel like they've gotten something from it, and they're one of the top AFC teams, and so that's good when you're putting 2 good teams together, and there's an understanding of what we're trying to get out of these 3 days. We're trying to improve each other, and we're not on the schedule, and if we end up playing each other, there's only one way that happens, and I'm sure both teams would be happy about it.
Coach, obviously with Mike's not here, but the wide receivers, what have you kind of seen out of that group, especially maybe some of them getting some extra reps with Mike not here?
Yeah, you don't notice the reps so much because we're at 12. We've got some experience in there with Ted and Traquan, and look, Kirkwood's been here a year. Austin, same way. It's a smart group. Some of these younger guys are doing well. So, watching the whole practice and the back end of those reps, of those drills, I thought some of those guys today looked pretty good.
A big picture tight end question about the position and its evolution. You know, there's a narrative that says it's become much more receiver oriented. At the same time, I've seen coaches like you value in certain formations a traditional tight end. So what exactly is?
Well, I would say this, man. For us, it's important in the run game to have someone that can block at that position. I mean, I would argue it's important for anyone to run the football consistently or to what you want to do with your scheme. It's important. But I'd also say that the receiving tight end, the guy that can stretch the defense inside, and you know so look, in a perfect world, you're getting, you know, one of these guys that does both things very well, so that there's not that predictability when one's on the field or the other. But yeah, I don't know that that much has changed. Now, where we're getting the player from, maybe, you know, there's some guys we've gotten from basketball, but I don't know that much has changed relative to being able to run the ball and then also effectively throw the ball. You know, the ones that you'll see that end up in the Hall of Fame are probably guys that did both pretty well.
I mean, it's hard.
All right, thank you guys.